you ever been sorely disappointed in the quality of store-bought crankbaits, and you wanted to make some for yourself that were way better, that had amazing UV features like this, or maybe even ones that glow, like this?
If so, you came to the right place.
Hey, what's up you guys? This is Steve from Natural Selection Angling, and I got a great video for you today. I had a gentleman named Chris get a hold of me and asked me if I could make something like this. He had caught king salmon on it before, but he broke it catching a king salmon. That happens. So he ordered 2 pieces to be like that one, and one in a Wonderbread of my choice. So we're going to go ahead and get this started, and we're going to be working with these 7-centimeter flicker type bodies. They're kind of like a flicker shad. They're kind of like another bait called a bad shad, but they work really well. I've made hundreds of crankbaits on this body, and they're great. So we're going to start off with a very coarse sanding with a sanding sponge that bends around the contours. When we see mold flashing like this, sometimes it's easier just to cut it off with a knife than it is to try to sand it down. All right, so think about that while you're going through this. So we inspected these blanks, and now we're preparing the surface by sanding them with this 80 grit sanding sponge. And the idea of using this 80 grit here is I want to have a very deep texture to it so that I can prime it and glow epoxy it and have plenty of tooth for all of that. All right, now when we get to the bill or the bib or the lip, whatever you guys like to call it, we're just going to go ahead and sand this down with some 220. You don't want to be over aggressive with this because you don't want to change the shape of the lip. You're just going to take down any high spots and clean up anything that needs cleaning up. All right, that's looking pretty good. Now we're going to clean them up with some ISO 99 alcohol. Just make sure when you're cleaning these you get everywhere, because you want to make sure you get any chemicals off, like especially mold release. That's devastating for your finish, so you want to make sure these are really clean. And from here out, gloved hands only. I'm gonna mask off the bib because I don't want to paint that. And this is a method I use. Other people use other methods. That's how it's done right there, guys. All right, now these are done. I'm going to attach these handles to them so that I can work with them without touching them. Now I just buy like a 20 pack of craft razors, and this is the handle for it. it fits right over the hook hanger. Tighten it up and it's good to go. Okay, we're going to white primer and some Createx 4030 clear mixed in with it to help it bond to the plastic, and it's going to be reduced with Createx 4012 reducer. I'm going to prime these in white because all glow baits should be base coated in white. Okay, we'll hit these with a second coat of that white primer, and that's all we're going to need to do. Anytime you need me. I'm going to go ahead and put down a layer of Createx UVLS, and this is going to protect that layer of paint and keep it from degrading from UV radiation. It also is a great mid coat that the epoxy really likes to adhere to. Okay, so this is a primed body with a mid coat that's ready to be painted now. In this case, we're going to paint it with epoxy resin. Some of you might wonder why I'm taking the tape off if I'm going to epoxy resin glow base the body. And it's because if I get resin over top of the tape, it's going to freeze the tape in place, and then when I go to remove it, I'm going to have trouble. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to take the tape off, and if any of that glow base runs onto the bib at all, I'll just cut it off carefully with a razor while it's still spongy, and that'll be the end of it. So I've gone ahead and mixed up my epoxy to the manufacturer's recommendations, and now I'm going to add the glow powder. Okay, so I'm just going to mix this in about 4-to-1 epoxy to glow powder. And essentially what this is just sprinkling it on the surface till the entire surface is covered, and that's going to get you pretty close. And then I'm going to add this mica powder to create a shiny metallic finish, and you don't need much of this at all, like maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon. And then we're going to combine that, get that all together, and go ahead and paint it on. For a complete tutorial that shows you step by step, every step of the way, making this epoxy glow base, you can watch this video right here. Absolutely amazing process. This will walk you through it. let's just paint this on and a nice thin coat. The second coat will be thicker. It'll have better adhesion as you're applying it and pull more off the brush. It'll just be a thicker coat naturally. But let's place a premium here on the first coat of keeping it off of the bill, but getting the entire head of the bait and the nose of the bait. And at the very end, before we put this piece into the turner, we're going to make sure that the eye sockets are clear, because we don't want to have a problem with epoxy boogers in there when we go to put the eyes down. Just pull it right out of the eyes with a very dry brush. Pop it in the turner. These are looking pretty good. Now, 6 hours later, they're going to be still tacky, and we're going to use the best type of bond that you can get with epoxy, and that's a chemical bond. So even though the working time is closed on it, it's not chemically set yet. It hasn't cured. So when we add another layer of epoxy, it'll literally adhere chemically right to the layer we already applied. It'll soak right into it. Now, if you don't get to them in 6 hours, not a huge deal, but you will have to sand them and wipe them down with alcohol again. That's why I do it this way. And that's looking pretty dang good. That metallic flake in there is no trouble to work with. It costs, a fraction of a penny for what you need for material, but look at the luster that it gives the bait. It just adds an extra dimension. That's looking pretty popping now. To see how to do these no paint epoxy jobs from start to finish, you can click on this video right here called Made with No Paint and No Equipment. It'll walk you through. I'm just applying this with a dotting tool in a pattern that I call Lottie Dottie. And you can see some Lottie Dottie baits here in this video. But these are just a series of 3 dots that decrease in size. And it's a style of painting that I've been using for years, and I like it a lot. All right, so we're just going to continue working through this bait. And, one of the keys to this style and to get a good application is to really concentrate on not touching the tool all the way to the piece. And you'll see that I try to take good care as I get close to just let the piece pull the epoxy off of the dotting tool rather than me push it onto the piece. And this is just going to give you nice round dots. It's important as you're working through these baits to just keep looking at the other side and make sure that the pattern's aligned. And if you're going to use a dotting style like this, you should, there's triads of dots, right? You should rotate these so the big dot and the medium dot and the small dot are not always in the same position. So randomize it a little bit. That's looking pretty dang good, huh? Little heavier grit if you want to, but the idea is we just spent a lot of time building up the glow base. I don't want to rip it back off. All I need to apply here is some paint. Okay, so I'm going to create enough tooth on the piece where I can paint it and then get that first clear coat applied. 220 should do it just fine. All right, because I just want to have some pieces to show my client, before I sand this one down, it's very shiny right now. I'm going to apply the eyes just so I can take some in-process pictures for my client and see how it goes. For what it's worth, I also tend to hate everything I make right up until the point where I put the eyes on and start the clear coat. I'm always thinking, man, this sucks. I put so much effort into it and I just don't like it. And then for some reason, the second you put the eye on, it looks a lot better. And then when you put the clear coat on, it just all comes together. Take your time here, put on the eyes carefully, and then I always make sure when I set them down that they go down and back, right? So as low as they can go in the socket and as far back as they can in the socket. And that's how I know they're always going to be the same on both sides, because they're always pushed down and to the back. Now, if you have pupils on the eyes that need alignment, make sure you do that at this stage too. That thing looks great, and I'm just going to go ahead and sand it now and get it ready for the final clear coat, and then I'll finish up these other baits. You can see the benefit of using the sponge here because these dots are raised, but the sponge conforms to their radius, right? And it sands the top and the sides of the domed up epoxy just fine. Because this bait is in a different position in its construction from the other ones. I'm just going to go ahead and clean this off with ISO now so that whether I remember or forget later, it's done and it's ready for the top coat. You might be able to hear it, but they're literally squeaky clean. All right, get these cleaned up nice and get the handles put on so that I can paint them. And the next step is going to be to prepare the paint. So this is Createx Fluorescent Orange, and I'm just going to mix up a batch. It's going to be the paint, about 10 to 20% of 40/30 clear as an extender and performance enhancer, an adhesion promoter, and then I'm going to reduce it down with 40/21 reducer, which won't curdle the paint. So we'll just go ahead and start applying the paint. We're going to do this in thin coats, and in between each coat we're going to hit it with the hairdryer to set it. And just keep working through.
Waking when the sun's down, riding all these highs, waiting for the calm down. Walk these streets with me, I'm doing decently, just glad that I can be, yeah. I'm trying to realize.
Now you might be thinking that paint's pretty thick, it's not gonna glow good. Just wait. Now when you're painting the head, just be careful here because there's a lot of angles that come together and the paint's going to get a little wonky if you spray it too thick or too hard. So start with the creases and the edges and get that started and then work on the rest. These are coming up nice now.
Couldn't put my phone down, scrolling patiently.
Now once we get the orange situated, we're gonna hit it with Createx 40/30 clear to protect our work. If we make any mistakes later, we can just wipe them off. You might be wondering, why don't you use UVLS at this stage to protect that paint? The answer is simple for me. UVLS is supposed to cut UV light, and right underneath this layer is the glow layer. I want as much UV entering the glow layer as possible. I did protect the primer with UVLS so that it doesn't break down, but this is just kind of what we have to do here. If you want good glow, you don't want to use UVLS on top of your glow. We're going to lay these dots down, and I'm using black gloss primer here. It doesn't have to be gloss, it can be whatever you have because the clear coat's going to bring it up to gloss anyway. So I like to start in the center and then build a symmetrical pattern off of the center. If you start at one end and try to work it, you know, laterally down the bait, it's going to probably come out a little wonky. Now I'm using the smallest dotting tool that I have, and I'm just pulling out these ribs. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but I'm like so careful with this work that, you know, it's like I'm holding my breath, like I'm about to squeeze off a round. Just trying to keep my shaky hands steady so I don't make any mistakes at the critical moment. Okay, we're going to work our way through the second one and we'll have both A sides done. Okay, once the A sides are set, we're going to dry it with the hair dryer. And then I'm going to line up the pattern on a piece of paper so that when I flip it over, I can see exactly where my dots need to go. So I just turn the piece over opposite, and now where these lines are exactly where the features need to be applied. I don't know if you guys have ever done this before, but I have plenty of times where I finish one side and then I finish the second side and they don't line up perfectly and nobody would ever notice except for me, but it drives me nuts. All right, let's finish up the B side on the second one. And you can see these line up really nice. All right, now we're going to go ahead and apply these eyes. And I'm going to use glow eyes here, but I'm going to use blue so there's some contrast. I mean, if you come in here with pink or, you know, the greenish yellow or orange or red, it's going to get lost in that orange paint. So use something that's contrasty so that when it's not glowing, it has good contrast. And when it is glowing, it still has some contrast. These are starting to look good now. For me, this is when I start feeling good about a job. Okay, they're completely dry, and I'm gonna hit them with 40-30 clear, again, just to protect what I just did. If something happens, I can clean it off. Okay, so we're gonna come back the next day after the paint is cured. Okay, one of the biggest mistakes you can make when you're clear coating is to put the epoxy on top of uncured paint. And as that paint loses moisture and gas, it affects the epoxy and you get a fisheye. Don't do that. All right, now we can remove this masking. They're looking really good, man. Okay, now we're going to do the epoxy top coat. Okay, to get a full tutorial on exactly how to do this, watch this video right here. Perfect clear coat every time. Okay, we're just going to paint this on like we usually do, and I've explained this in other videos. I use a method to remind myself how to do it each time, and I just call it features first. So I'm going to hit the eyes, they're a feature, I'm going to get the nose and the chin where it attaches to the bill, because that's a feature. And then I'm just going to methodically work my way from the head to the tail of the bait. And you can see how great this looks. I don't want to load the bill up with epoxy. So I am going to, there's my man right there, always hanging around. So I'm going to do the body, and then I'm going to come back on the second coat and do the bill. The more epoxy you build up on the bill, the more action you can take away from the bait because you're changing the shape of it. All right, back to the Wonder. When you're epoxying over baits like this that have raised features, make sure you take your time and go on top of, on the sides of, and around each one of the features. This lip was a little bit gnarly, so I put a coat on it to start, and then I'll evaluate that on the second coat. If it needs another one, I'll do another one, but if it's fine, I'll just leave it. Okay, 6 hours later, we're gonna come back and do the second coat. The bill was good, so I left it alone there. And then these guys, I'm gonna go ahead and, the bills look great. They didn't have any scratches or cloudy spots on them, so I just did them on the final coat. Now, if there's an emergency and this is messed up when I look at it in 6 hours, I could do it again. Not a big deal, but I'm pretty satisfied. These things look good. Coming at you. Okay, so the next day, after a 24-hour cure of the epoxy, we're done. Man, these came out fire too. Now, I'm not just trying to show them to you, I'm trying to get a very careful inspection, because if I need to hit these again, then, you know, we got to go back to sand them again and clear coat them again. But they look perfect. And you can see the bills on these are just gin clear. And that's it for the painting portion, guys. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, before we can fish them, we gotta hook them up, right? So we're gonna apply the split rings and the hooks now. And I'm gonna be using number 4 split rings for this size bait, which is appropriate for the size of the bait and the hook size. These are gonna be 2X rings with a 75-pound rating, so they're plenty strong. I always start with the one on the bill first. There's a reason. While I'm holding on to the bait, I don't want to be holding on to the hooks. So I'll do the one on the bill first, and then I'll do the one on the tail next, so that I can still hold the middle of the bait without getting stabbed. And these are number 6 hooks, 2X rated for strength. You could use a number 4 on the front here, but if you put a 4 on the front and the back, the bait will sink and it won't maintain that nose down orientation the way it needs to. So I don't recommend that. Either use a pair of 6s, which is what the factory spec is, or use a 6 on the back and a 4 on the front. Those will run true. But if you go up too big in hook size, the bait's gonna sink and it's not gonna run as true. I tell you what, this is a real pleasure to do these on a hook hanger. I've been doing so many spoons, and you have to be so careful when you apply the split rings because it has to go through the hole in the spoon, and the finish is all around it. That'll hunt right there, no doubt. That's so fishy. I'll just power through these other ones and get them done. I'm super satisfied with these guys. These just came out so banging. Beautiful. Look at that clear coat shine, guys. Those UV features are intense. It's a real pretty set of baits here. What do you guys think about them? Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this job and how it turned out. I'm trying to build a positive community here, and you guys are great. But I need more help. I need you to like and subscribe and set the alert bell so you don't miss any content. Take care, guys.